Hello, welcome to the channel. Today, we'd like to invite you guys to come along and have a discussion about 3 new suppressors. The first of the 3 will be the CAT Alley-Cat 5.56. It is 3D printed out of 7/18 Inconel and it is the QD version. The second will be the CAT Alley-Cat 7.62. It is 3D printed out of 7/18 Inconel and is also the QD version. The third will be the Dillon Rifle Company 5.56. It is a hub compatible can that is 3D printed out of 7/18 Inconel. Also, it incorporates the PIP technology. I've had these now for a little over a week. I think it was the 31st that I picked them up on. But since then, I've had a couple of sessions with them, with all 3, several hundred rounds on a few different platforms. So definitely enough to have some initial thoughts, first impressions. And during this time, we gathered some footage for sound comparison, along with assessing the back pressure for each. So guys, after the footage, if you meet me back here, we'll have a more in-depth conversation about sound, back pressure, and a few other things. All right, hope you enjoy. See you soon. All right, we're back. Getting right into it. Comparing the sound. And again, guys, I forgot to mention earlier, I had some kind of setting wrong on my microphone, so I know the sound was a little bit off in the footage. And again, I apologize for that. I'm figuring this stuff out as I go. And now I will know to check that next time. So again, I apologize. But as far as my opinion, and I also had my son out there with me, and we listened from several different positions, including, being the shooter on the gun, and we agree. Both of us had the same opinion. The Dillon definitely, is noticeably quieter. But that being said, that just tells you how well it performs, because both of the Alley-Cats, man, they are phenomenal. When you take everything and consider it all like in a synergistic package, they're really, really phenomenal. So everywhere except behind the gun, I give it to the Dillon. But on the gun, and again, this is not a huge difference, very minuscule differences, but it is a difference that I noticed. Far as the shooter on the gun, I thought both of the Alley-Cats, it was a little different. It sounded a little different, sounded a little better as a shooter. Like I say, it's a very small difference. That's just my take on it. My son said he could not tell the difference. So that was his take on it. With that being said, let's get into what we found when we took a look at the back pressure. I'm not going to bore y'all with all the details. I have give a description, you know, of our procedure several times in other videos, so I'm not going to bore you guys with that. That being said, if you have any questions, please reach out in the comments and I will answer them. I'll just give you the down and dirty of it. In order to assess back pressure in a manner that I can gain information that will be useful for you as a viewer, I use a rifle speed gas block. By doing that, it allows me to control the gas, so it allows me to, within, you know, some percentages, with some accuracy, determine within percentages how much back pressure a given suppressor has or does not have onto the host itself. So with that being said, we use the 14.5 inch, and with that, the 6 is the first unsuppressed setting. Okay, so what that means is now what we're going to do is we're going to look for failure. We're going to turn it down until we choke the gas off to a point that there's no longer enough to lock the bolt to the rear on an empty magazine. So for unsuppressed, that is setting 5. All right, so as good as it's going to get now, when we start taking a look at the silencers, as good as it's going to get is setting 5. It cannot be any better than the unsuppressed setting. So when we start going down, the more we go down, tells you that it has more back pressure. So, you know, the difference from like 4 to 2, it's pretty significant in how much back pressure each one of those options would have. So getting into, start with the Alley Cats. Both of them performed amazing. When it comes to back pressure, I cannot detect any at all. And so starting out, they both failed at the unsuppressed, the unsuppressed setting of setting 5. And so I wanted to get some more finite information. So just going out on a limb, a little experimentation, I wanted to try to get the bolt to get partial lock on the unsuppressed setting of setting 6. So I started messing with the buffer weights and I was able to get it to do it. So I got it to get partial lock on setting 6. Man, I hope I'm explaining this right. I've got it right in my head. So what that means is if they fail to get lock at the same setting from 4 to 5, okay, there's a certain percentage from the top to the mid to the bottom of that number, okay, that it can be different. A certain percentage, you should say. But when we get to a more finite spot, like getting a partial lock, and what I mean by partial lock is there's not enough gas to run the bolt far enough back that you actually get the latch to catch on the bolt itself. It actually catches on the bolt carrier. Okay, so now if I put the Alley Cats on there and I get the same result, that tells you that it is very similar. And lo and behold, both of them did the exact same thing. They both got partial locks. So impressive to say the least to me, because that tells you that they are very similar to just being non-suppressed, and that's amazing, especially when you combine the sound and the flash reduction that you get. It really is. Again, now moving on to the Dillon. Excuse me. I apologize, ma'am. Being on this camera makes me so nervous. I get dry mouth and I have to take a drink. I don't know what it is about talking on this camera that makes you so nervous, but it makes you go, you know, full, you know what, sometimes. Anyway, back on track on the Dillon. It definitely had more back pressure than I was anticipating. I knew it was going to have more, just strictly, you know, by the nature of it, how well it works at suppressing sound. I knew there was going to be a trade-off somewhere, and I knew that was going to be in back pressure. And so it ended, like I say, it ended up being a little bit more than I thought. But that is not a negative thing, because it performed so well. Let me explain. Far as its sound, and there was a gentleman in the comments that asked me, because of the back pressure, because if you look at the video of it, it's obvious, man. It bellows out a bunch of gas there at the ejection port. Like, it is obviously a lot more gassier than the Alley Cats, just by when you watch it functioning. And he asked if it affected recoil in any kind of way. And And it actually does, but in a good way. Like a lot of high flow cans, it's just like almost like putting a recoil delete, on the front of your gun. It pretty much just takes away everything, and it just pushes straight back into your body. It's and the Dillon is no different. It makes your gun behave in a very pleasant manner. So to answer that question, it does not affect it in a negative way, but in a very good way. And then combined with the reduction of sound you get and the size, right? The package, it's a small package. I will take a little bit more gas to gain those benefits that you get with it, right? So let me explain about it being gassy. At no time, and like if you shoot, a couple of sets of predictive doubles and a couple of bill drills, you're going to be breathing some gas, okay? And that it doesn't matter indoors, outdoors. It happened to me in both. But in no time was it ever offensive to the point, you're shooting, you never feel any gas or anything. So I just want to be very clear on that. The gas you're getting from that is strictly because so much of it, comes out of the ejection port. And I will say both shot it indoors and outdoors. Indoors, that's one of the reasons why I like to first go shoot them indoors. It's very telling about how gassy it is. That's something that cannot be hidden indoors. Outdoors, with the breeze a certain way or whatever, it can kind of camouflage itself. In the morning, I did go shooting. Yesterday morning is when I went and shot them outdoors. It was very still. There was absolutely no breeze, and it was extremely humid. So that will also have an effect on it. Okay, so let me retract here. I want to make sure you guys understand that I'm not saying it's a negative thing, or at least in my eyes, that it has more back pressure. Okay, getting into the setting that we found failure on. Okay, talking about the Alley Cats, we found failure with them on the unsuppressed setting of setting 5. With the Dillon, we found failure on setting 2. So that's a pretty significant difference there if you're looking at percentages. I'll tell you something that I can compare it to personally, and far as the amount of back pressure, and if you've ever shot a Griffin Arms Dual Lock 7, it is very comparable to that. And just like with the Dual Lock 7, it's the same failure point on the rifle speed gas block. But the Dual Lock 7 also makes the gun very pleasant, makes the recoil impulse very pleasant. So that's something they have in common. And nothing else they have in common, but I was just trying to give some kind of reference there. I just don't want you to be surprised if you get it. And, the first time you go shoot it and, there's a bunch of gas bellowed up there and you breathe it. I just want you to be aware that that is going to happen, okay? Something else about all three of these. Some suppressors will do good on, say, a 14.5-inch gun, and then you go to putting them on shorter barrels, they'll start to struggle, right? None of these do. Now, I'm not saying they perform just as good on shorter barrels, but I'm saying, with the respective change in the barrel length, they perform just as well. So that's something that I was very impressed with all three of them, because when I put them on a 12.5-inch, they shot extremely well. Excuse me, as far as the sound. Okay. One other thing I was going to talk about. Because of the back pressure on the Dillon, I wanted to go ahead and get you guys some information on if you're the kind of individual that you want to shoot an AR and you do not want to have to worry about having an adjustable gas block or worry about tuning it for unsuppressed shooting, and then when you put your can on it, you got to tune it for that. I don't like to roll that way myself, and if you do, more power to you, but I want to be able to shoot my gun unsuppressed because the majority of the shooting I do in my training anyway is unsuppressed. So I want to then be able to, throw my suppressor on there without changing anything, and I want it to shoot. I don't want to lose any shootability because of that. So what I did is I shot it on 3 different guns that, without changing buffer weights. They do not have adjustable gas blocks on them. The 3 is one is a 14.5-inch Hodge with the mid-length gas system. One is a 14.8-inch Psionics with the mid-length gas system and their standard gas port. And the 3rd gun I shot it on was a 12.5-inch Hodge carbon length. And that was the one with the bigger gas port. They actually have 2 gas ports in their 12.5-inch. And this is the one with the standard gas port. And it performed extremely well in all 3 options. So what I'm saying is, as long as you have a gun that is gassed correctly, it is not going to be a problem. You're not going to have an issue. As far as the ejection pattern, and I'm not saying that ejection pattern in itself is the end-all answer to all about tuning a gun, because it is not. But it is most definitely a factor. And I'll use the Psionics 14.8 for instance. Shooting 5.56 ammo, I have a Geisley braided rifle link spring combined with a Ultor A5A2 buffer. So that's how I shoot it unsuppressed. And if that unsuppressed, it's about 330, consistently 330 ejection with 5.56. Putting the Dillon on there, all it did was change the ejection pattern to about 230 to even 3 sometimes, but extremely consistent. And so, like I say, I don't believe in chasing ejection patterns at all. Shootability of the gun is what's important, and that's how we know if it's tuned correctly. It has been my experience, though, majority of the time when you do have it tuned correctly, that your ejection pattern is going to be somewhere. It's not going to be at 1 o'clock. That's been my experience. I've never had one that was where it needed to be, in having forward ejection like that. So again, I know it's not the end-all be-all, but it is a factor. All right, so let me make sure I covered everything. All right, one other thing, guys. A couple of topics. Want to know if y'all may be interested in. If you are, hit me up, let me know. Would y'all be interested in a video about care and maintenance of suppressors, and also doing a comparison of the Alley Cats versus the Alley Cat 5.56 versus the White Bread, a more in-depth comparison showing the differences in the 2, because they most definitely are 2 different suppressors. All right, gentlemen, I have some more footage, so after this, I will put the footage on there. It's going to be footage of me shooting the Psionics 14.8 with the Dillon. So it's a bunch of doubles. So I shot a bunch of fast-paced drills just so you could see, and kind of zoomed in on that area so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And also use the Alley Cat 7.62 on a 300 blackout. I'll put that footage in there as well. All right, guys, again, if you have any questions, man, reach out to me in the comments. I appreciate all the support you guys have been giving me. Great comment in the comment section, some good questions, some good feedback, good encouraging words, and a lot of good information as well, people sharing their own experiences, so we appreciate that. And one other thing, I will be going on vacation for a couple of weeks, and as soon as I get back, I've got several plans already lined out for the channel, but we are definitely going to do an in-depth flash comparison of all these, and it is going to include using different barrel lengths, some different loads, so you can actually see, just by changing different powders, how you can mitigate a lot of flash by doing that, as well as we're going to film both with and without night vision. All right, appreciate you guys. Until next time, you stay safe. And remember, stay on for the footage.